Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. WowMax1 here, bringing another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're going to be doing another champion guide on one of the most versatile supports in the entire game that I just recently acquired and built on my account, and that is the Force Affinity Defense Champ from the Barbarians faction, Freyja Fateweaver. Today I'll be breaking down her full kit, showing you how to build her for maximum effectiveness in both PvE and Arena, and finally doing an Arena, Doom Tower Hard, and Hydra showcase. So with that, let's get into it. So Freyja was released in August of 2024 along with Odin, Loki, and Thor as part of the Asgard Divide event in Raid Shadow Legends. Freyja was one of the champions that was attainable through one of the events. Unfortunately, I was low on resources and I didn't end up going for her, and I regretted it almost immediately. I started seeing her everywhere in Arena, Hydra teams, all over the place. Freyja truly is one of the most versatile supports. She can be built for speed. She can be built as a high-resist cleanser. She can even be built as a pseudo-damage dealer. She's amazing in both PvE and in the Arena. And with that, let's take a look at her kit and see what makes her so good. Starting off with her A1, Hate Spear. Attacks all enemies, has a 25, booking up to a 40% chance of placing a provoke debuff for one turn. Activates this skill whenever a shield placed by Freyja is removed by damage. Damage is based on defense, as she is a defense-based champ. This activation can occur once per turn. So just having an AoE A1 with a 40% chance of provoke makes her excellent already for wave-based content as a secondary provoker in Hydra, Disruptor in Arena. Very solid A1. Moving on now to her A2, Prismatic Aegis. It's a reference to this really cool shield that she's got. I think they did a really nice job with her visuals. Really cool champ. So A2. Big increased defense on all allies for 2 turns, along with a shield. The value of the shield is going to be proportional to Freyja's defense, along with each target's max HP. 4 turn, booking down to a 3-turn cooldown. So this is one of the biggest shields, I think, other than Valkyrie's in the game, if she's built right, considering that she has a scaling defense aspect to her passive. So spoiler alert there, but this is going to be a really nice shield to be putting on your allies, and she pairs up really nicely with defense-based damage dealers like Harima, who don't bring their own increased defense, and also this supports her bringing her own damage buff if you are going to be building her as a pseudo-damage dealer. Really solid A2. Now looking at her A3, Gold Weave. Removes all debuffs from all allies and places a block debuffs buff for 2 turns. Also fills the turn meter of all allies by 20%. 5 turn down to a 3-turn cooldown. So here we have another aspect of her versatility. She is now a cleanser with block debuffs placer, and she's a turn meter filler. So this is where you can get that either high resist Freyja that can cleanse your team if you need her to, or have her be even a turn meter speed booster similar to like Arbiter. You can make her your fastest champ if you want to. Really great kit overall. And finally, taking a look at her passive, Divine Foresight. The passive effect increases Freyja's defense by 5% each time an ally inflicts a critical hit, stacking up to 50%. So with that base defense that she's got, you can get her defense really high, and then this can skyrocket it, making her A2 shield extremely powerful and her A1 hit very, very hard. And the nice part is, if you build her as a damage dealer and she has a 100% crit rate, in an AoE scenario, she can actually stack up that passive using her own A1 very quickly. On the active effect, 5-turn cooldown on it, prevents the death of the ally with the highest crit damage, does not include herself, and then heals them by 20% and activates an instant turn on them. This is so incredibly useful when it comes to Arena, facing a Nuker trying to take down your damage dealer, and all of a sudden your damage dealer doesn't get killed and instead gets to go and hit the enemy team. Huge momentum swing. This is also great in places like Chimera on the Lion form, where your damage dealers can potentially get taken out because of the massive damage they're taking. So useful in so many areas of the game. Great passive. And finally, her aura, 30% ally defense in all battles. Can't complain about it. So now let's take a look at her total stats. HP over 20k for a defense-based champion. That is really good. Attack doesn't matter on her at all. 1400 defense, very solid. No complaints there at all. That's going to allow her to do good damage, good scaling on that A2. And then her speed at 110. Elva, Marichka territory, so good. She is not even a traditional support, in my opinion, just because she can be built as a damage dealer. So the fact that she has this much speed, that much HP, and that much defense makes her really special as a champion. And the rest is pretty standard. So when it comes to how you're going to build your Freyja, 3 builds that you can go for. You can either make her be a pure speed champion and have her be a turn meter booster in the arena. For that, you obviously want to prioritize speed over everything else and pour the rest into defense and HP. You can have her be built as a high resist cleanser. So for that, you obviously want as high you can go with resistance and the rest into adequate speed and then some survivability. Or, and this is what I'm going to be doing and showing you in today's video, is building her as a pseudo or full damage dealer, where you can deal a ton of damage and still get the benefits from the shield and the turn meter boost and the cleanse. So the last variable that you want to consider is accuracy. Now, if you're going for high resist, I don't recommend also going accuracy. It's going to make her too stat hungry and you really want to stack the accuracy. If you're going for her as a speed champion, you're also not going to have a lot of stats to throw around into accuracy. So the one place where you could consider accuracy is if you do build her as a pseudo damage dealer, because you're really going to be wanting to prioritize a lot of her A1s because they're going to be doing quite a bit of damage, and that is the only place where she does have a debuff in that provoke. So if you do want to build her as a damage dealer or a hybrid damage dealer, I would recommend going for a little bit of accuracy there. But if you don't care about it, and in today's video, I do not care about accuracy, I'm just going to be building her with sky-high defense, sky-high crit damage, 100% crit rate, and enough speed for the content we're going to be tackling. So now let's talk about the best possible sets that you can put on your Freyja, depending on what content you're going to be running, starting off with the arena. So if you're going to be building your Freyja for pure speed, in that case, you're going to be potentially running a bunch of broken sets, but you should be prioritizing anything that just makes her the fastest champion possible to win that race. So pinpoint accessories, 5 pieces of protection, anything with swift parry, divine speed, regular speed, impulse, any of that is going to be going on your Freyja, along with any broken pieces with quad rolls of speed, so you don't even need to worry about anything else. If, however, you're going to be going for a high resist Freyja or a damage Freyja, or a hybrid damage Freyja, in that case, having her in at least 1 turn Stone Skin is going to be extremely beneficial in today's meta. There's so much damage going out, so much crowd control going out, turn meter reduction. You want to make sure she stays alive so that her passive can trigger on one of your damage dealers, so that she can cleanse your team, so that she can turn meter boost, put up her shield. So useful. 1 turn Stone Skin, almost mandatory on non-speed sets in the arena. So if you're going for that high resist Freyja, you can either have her in 2 turn Stone Skin, or you can have her with 1 turn Stone Skin and 4 pieces of Supersonic. That way you have a chance to get turn meter boost whenever the enemy team is buffing up, and you could potentially cut in on them and have your team catch up by turn meter boosting your own team. If you are going to be going for a damage variant or hybrid damage variant of Freyja, in that case, you want to pair up the 1 turn Stone Skin along with any of the 4-piece ignore % defense sets. So we're talking Savage, Instinct, or Lethal. Now, if you're going to be looking to strictly bring your Freyja to PvE encounters and you're looking for a good damage Freyja set, 9-piece Merciless is still going to be the best option for Freyja in that case. Skill cooldown reduction for more A2s, A3s, and the most ignore % defense of any set. That % attack on the set doesn't matter at all. You still get crit damage and speed and chances of extra turns. 9-piece Merciless is still the best, even for a defense-based champion. Second best option for damage would be 6-piece Merciless, along with one of the good 2-piece sets, something like Zeal or even Cruel. You still get that ignore % defense from it. And beyond that, you can do one of the 4-piece ignore % defense sets, along with any other set that's going to boost her speed or her defense in any kind of way. And finally, if you're going to be bringing your Freyja to PvE encounters exclusively, but you don't care about damage, you're building her as a traditional support, in that case, there is still a clear winner for sets, and that is going to be 9-piece Protection. Freyja does bring 2 buffs, so that's going to be 10% extra damage for your damage dealers, along with protected buffs, which is very important in a lot of encounters like Chimera or Hydra, so this is still going to be the best possible option. After that, just look for anything that gives her speed or defense and roll with that. So with that, let's take a look at how I have my Freyja built. And if you can already tell from the sets, this is an arena-focused Freyja, and I am going to be going for pure damage on her. So looking at the individual pieces, we have a defense with Defense Ascension on the ring, crit damage on the amulet. Unfortunately, we have an HP banner. I did not have a defense-based Stone Skin banner for her, so that was unfortunate, but I will eventually look to replace that. Crit damage on the gloves, defense % on the chest plate, and I need to re-roll the accuracy off of that, and then speed with speed on the boots. For total stats, we are looking at 57k HP, 5.5k defense, 264 speed, crit capped, and 275 crit damage. Once I get her to 4-star Awaken at least, then it'll look a little bit nicer with over 300 crit damage, and she will have over 6k defense once I fix her banner. And those are stats that I like to see for the arena. For my Relic on Freyja, I decided to go with a budget option, and that is Malefic Talon. Now, ideally, if I had something like a Cat's Gaze, if I was going pure damage, that is what I would choose to go with on her. But unfortunately, I'm out of some of my more premium relics, so I decided to go with that one, which is still a great stand-in. Now, if you have the pick of the litter and you can choose any relic that you want on her, if you're going for that traditional high resist support in the arena, Valcardiac Heart is an amazing option for her. Resist as the primary gives an extra shield and has a chance to reflect that damage through Magma Shield. Really powerful. If you're going for her as a pure speed champion in the arena, anything like Hollowed Hilt would be really good. Anything that gives you primary speed is going to be a great option. Of course, I make the argument that Wand of Submission should be on virtually every single champ that you bring into the arena if you can help it, just because there are so many crowd control effects going out. My greatest joy in arena right now is watching Armands just sheep themselves as soon as they hit my team with their sheep ability, so that's a lot of fun. She is, of course, a speed booster, so if you don't have any of those relics, Journal of Necrotos is good on her. A Gilded Dragonstone would even be good on her, as she does have scaling defense throughout longer encounters, so this is another chance for her to scale her defense. I already mentioned it before, Malefic Talon is going to be a really good option as a budget damage dealer Freyja, or Cat's Gaze if you happen to have it. And then one other option for PvE specifically that's really good is Perched Shadow. Anytime that Freyja has an ability to use her A2 or A3 in a traditional support sense is going to be really powerful. Only an epic relic, but so good for PvE. For blessings on your Freyja, again, very versatile champ, so a lot of good options that you can go with. For arena blessings, I have her in Stone Skin. I want to make sure that Stone Skin stays on her so that she can remain useful for my team, so I chose to put her in Lightning Cage. If you need an Intimidating Presence aura for the arena, that's a fine option. This applies for PvE as well. If you want to have her in Temporal Chains, that's also a fine option for the arena. Or if you are building her as a pure damage dealer below 6-star, Soul Reap potentially is not a bad option just to help execute opponents that you start hitting with that really hard with that A1. Or if you have her at 6-star Awakened and you want to, by all means, Crushing Rend just for all that damage. If you are going to be going into the arena and you do also have her at 6-star, then Polymorph is another fine option. For PvE, I think that there is one blessing that she just excels with, and that is Cruelty. The AoE A1 and all the usefulness that it brings with that provoke potential, I think Cruelty is just so good in places like Hydra and wave-based content like Doom Tower. And finally, let's take a look at Masteries after I move myself over here. Okay. I am going pure damage on my Freyja, so of course I came down for Helm Smash. I already have her in Ignore % defense set, so this just complements that even more. So this is really important. Methodical, extremely important. All her damage comes from her A1, so having this is mandatory for damage sets. Now, if you want to, for PvE strictly, if you don't have her in Ignore % defense gear or you don't have a lot of crit damage on her or whatever, you don't have to go with Helm Smasher. You can, of course, end up going with something like War Master. Now, again, for my build, since this is arena-focused, so I put her with Whirlwind of Death just so that she gets more speed, the more champions she could potentially knock out. I am being a little ambitious and hoping that she does a ton of damage with that A1 so that Cycle of Violence could potentially get triggered. More damage to shields, also important. And then coming down the defense tree, picking up a little bit more defense, a little more damage for her, getting her a little tankier with something like Blast Proof or Delay Death. But these two are ones that I really wanted to make sure that I hit. Counterattack, again, very important. Her A1 is all her damage. So any extra chances that I get to counterattack is going to be great on Freyja. So other than War Master and Helm Smasher, what are other tier 6s that you can take on your Freyja? If you're going to be going down the high resist route, then Unshakable is going to be a really good option. Probably your best option at that point. Getting 50 extra resist is very, very helpful. And instead of going down the offense tree in that case, as a secondary, I'd go down the support tree and pick up things like Steadfast, Shield Breaker, Healing Savior, go down and pick up Lore of Steel for even more bonuses from that. Spirit Haste, really good. And then lasting gifts, of course, she does have buffs that she's bringing, so the chance to extend those. And then if you don't want to go the high resist route, but still want to go the route of her as a support, then another really good tier 6 to consider is Timely Intervention. So this is going to trigger whenever an ally gets drops low, and her passive actually has really nice synergy with this because whenever her passive triggers, Timely Intervention will also trigger. So not only are you getting an instant turn on your highest crit damage champion, but then she is going to be able to follow up with a potential turn meter increase or a potential shield and a potential increased defense to keep them alive. So for the first showcase in today's video, we're going to be going into Doom Tower Hard on the 117th floor. The team that we've built around Freyja features Ancora as our reviver, Donatello as a reset, Lydia as a debuffer, and Harima as a secondary damage dealer. Pairs up really well, as mentioned in the beginning of the video, with Freyja because Harima doesn't have her own increased defense. So these two scaling defense damage dealers, I think, are kind of a natural fit. So here we go, right in here to the first wave. Now, I'm going to be doing this on manual just because Freyja, if left to her own devices, is going to prioritize her A2 and A3 unless I specifically shut those off. I don't want to do that. So all I'm going to do here is just show off her damage on her A1 and how quickly it can scale. So right now, we are looking at hits. I'm going to go in with this even though it's not necessary right now. We didn't get any crits there, unfortunate. Okay, here we go. 5 crits, 60K, 60K. We saw around 60,000. Now let's compare that to Harima's A3 without anything else buffing it up. 69, 89, not that far behind, honestly. For an A3 from a legendary champion and somebody who is built with more crit damage and more defense, as I'll show later, this is actually a very impressive result. So we have some good crits coming in. We already have, at this point, maxed out Freyja's passive, so that plus 50% increased defense is now in play because of the crits from her A1 and from Harima's A3. So now let's take a look at how much damage she's doing with that A1 once it comes back around to her turn. Let's see what we got now. 82, right there. We're right there with now Harima's A3. Now, Harima obviously is also another scaling champion, so she's going to get a chance to do even more here in a moment. In fact, let's just go ahead on auto until it's Freyja's turn. Freyja is going to default to one of her non-A1 skills. Here we go. We'll give Harima a chance to scale up a little bit so she can compete again with Freyja's A1 damage. But again, Freyja is not meant to be a primary damage dealer. I think Freyja does really well bringing her things like her passive and her ability to turn meter boost your team and the buffs that she brings. But this, as a secondary bonus, having that damage, having a chance to provoke, as we just saw, is just so powerful on her. Right there, almost the same amount of damage, considering how much defense she's still missing and how much crit damage she's still missing. That's just such an impressive result. Now, the idea that I got for this video actually stems from a live arena match that I did where I assumed that I'd beaten somebody in the draft. So they drafted one damage dealer that I could tell and then a whole bunch of supports. And so I ended up banning their damage dealer. I think it was a Marius. And then all that they had left was their Freyja. And I assumed that that was it. I had just assumed we're good to go now. They don't have a single damage dealer. I'm just going to crush them now. All I have to do is try to punch through their defense, which was considerable at the time because they had 4 supports, basically. And what ended up happening was that was absolutely shredding my team with those A1s, with the counterattacks, with the counterattacks from her Masteries, as well as counterattacks from me breaking the shields on the opposing team. And my team ended up losing that match. And that made such an impression on me that I just figured, there we have the instant turn activating from Freyja. This is a very tanky wave here, by the way. Very difficult to potentially overcome, but we have plenty of heals. And again, we have enough damage that's going to be coming in here in a moment. All right, I want to make sure that Freyja is not going to be prioritizing her A2 and A3 now that it's been reset by Donatello over there. So we're going to go and we're going to get some A1s in here. All right, here it is. Boom. Good damage. We have about 40 to 50,000 from those A1s. Let's go. Speed boost. Sure, let's stop this guy from casting anything. All right. If we had a Michelangelo in here, we could then spread that. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Let's get the A3 going. Let's whittle this down a little bit. Let's try another A1. Again, really solid damage. As a secondary damage dealer who brings so much utility to any team that she's on, this is why I think this is the most value that I can think of for Freyja for the arena, I think, in terms of how much she can bring. Because as a damage dealer, her A1 still can provoke. As a damage dealer, she can still turn meter boost. As a damage dealer, she can still give your team huge shields. So I think this is the best possible use case for me for Freyja. So a lot of fun. We see there dealing about half of Harima's damage. That's to be expected, not only because Freyja has much worse stats, but also because she only has her A1 that she uses as a damage ability, and I didn't fix any of the AI presets, so she wasn't just strictly doing damage like Harima was. She was also increasing my team's turn meter and applying shields and cleansing. So for the Hydra showcase in today's video, I've put together a team with Harima, Elva, Lydia, Marius, Freyja, and Lammasu. All defense-based damage dealers. The reason that I'm skipping into the video now is just because I wanted to showcase the point at which both Harima and Freyja are already ramped up to their fullest, and I wanted to showcase both damage to heads as well as to exposed necks. So we're going to be just going in and taking a look right now. So I did this on manual earlier. I just wanted to make sure that I got this one. It is kind of nice. So there we saw 116,000 on the head of Wrath, 112,000-ish on the head of Mischief there. Now we're going to be seeing what kind of damage that compares to on the exposed necks. This is all with decreased defense and weaken up. Okay, so not a great way on this team of handling the head of Torment, as you can see. But here there we go. A turn was unfortunately skipped on 2 champions, so not ideal. But what I really want to highlight here is the damage comparison between Harima and between Freyja. So let's take a look once we have the heads down, what kind of damage both of them are going to be doing. And again, after this, I'm going to be showing their stat discrepancy. So Harima, much better statted in this case. So here we go. 406,000 damage on that exposed neck that we saw right there. Very, very solid for a hybrid support damage dealer, basically. Here we go. What do we have there? 633 on that head from Harima. Again, fully stacked up. My Harima has close to 7,000 base defense for this, so that's a very impressive result there. 536,000 there on that head from Freyja. So really close in terms of damage. I mean, we're talking like 75, 80% even of the damage that Harima is doing potentially coming in from just Freyja's A1 in this build. I'm extremely impressed by that, and I'm going to 545 right there. I'm going to retackle this for sure once I have my a proper defense banner for my Freyja, or I might just end up rebuilding her strictly for Hydra in this case. But I am very, very pleased with the damage result on this. I think if you have a Freyja and you're bringing her in there, she did 1.4 million with 1 A1 on the exposed heads there altogether. Really, really impressive result for Freyja in Hydra, and definitely something I recommend that you try out to just improve your score while still bringing a ton of utility for your team. And here are just the AI presets that I wanted to record for that run. So first showing Harima's here, we see 6.8k defense, 266 speed, and 343 crit damage. Very respectable numbers for a Harima. And then comparing that to Freyja's numbers, 5.8k defense, 284 speed, and only 305 crit damage. So we have a lot of room there to improve and to get them closer together to see how the damage really breaks down once they have similar gear and stats. And finally, for the Arena showcase in today's video, we're going to be going in with a team of Marichka as our speed lead, Elva as our cleanser, reviver, Freyja as our cleanser, and damage support and secondary damage dealer, and Harima as our primary damage dealer. We're facing a team of Eostrid, UDK, Pythion, and Mithrala. Let's take this one off full auto and just see how this goes. So the style of team that I built here, very much a go second team. This is a very difficult team to get through between Harima's passive, Freyja's passive, Marichka's passive. Very, very difficult to get through this team. We're going to see how much damage that stacking A1 can start doing for my Freyja. So we're going to first go ahead and put up our increased defense. Then I'm going to try to knock down some of their shields on the opposing team. Good damage from Harima's A1 already, just with that increased defense right there, making a huge difference. All right, let's see what we can do here. I'm really curious how much damage this ends up doing. So we already had some crits go out, so her defense has increased. Now let's see, what is the A1 going to do now? So 17K, so not a whole lot right there, but I suspect that has to do with the amount of buffs that are now up on the opposing team and Pythion's passive. So keeping that in mind, let's try to see how much damage we're going to be doing here. Maybe a good point of comparison would be if I did an Harima A3 now and seeing how much that compares to. Okay, here we go. So we have less buffs on Eustrid and on Mithrala. Let's see how much this does. 84,000 damage on the Eustrid with the A1 from Freyja. Gone. One hit. That's it. I'm just going to let this one play out on auto. That was really all I wanted to do, was to demonstrate one really solid hit like that. It is fully stacked up, needless to say, Freyja's passive is. So we're going to go ahead and continue this onslaught with the A1s. Let's compare to Harima's. 83,000 on Harima's, A3 on Eustrid, and 89,000 on Freyja's. Now again, some of that could have been a Helm Smasher proc going off and one not going off, but the point is it's right there. Look at that, 41,000 on a 4-buff, very tanky Pythion. This is a great champion to have on this kind of a super tanky go second team. As you can just see, just loading on the damage there. Just incredible amounts of damage from a champ that is supposed to be a support. I mean, look at the damage. I mean, I'm just so thoroughly impressed by the damage version of Freyja. This is something that's so much fun. In the arena for me, anytime you can build a champion to surprise your opponent with them, it's always worth it. And for the final showcase in today's video, we're going to be going up against a team with Arbiter in the lead, Fabian, Lazarius, and Embrus. It's a pretty nasty looking team. If the Fabian can lock us out, that could be potentially problematic for a lot of teams. Luckily, we still have a ton of damage that can get dished out just with the A1, so no problem there at all for Freyja. Let's see how this one goes. I think this one's all going to come down to how much damage that Embrus can put out. So here we go. There it is, the lockout. We luckily had Elva resist it, so we still are able to have some increased speed put on us. A lot of damage coming in from Harima's A1 there. Now let's see how much damage we have coming in from... There it is. We already knocked out one of their champions, half health on everybody else. That's so much damage coming in overall. It's just so much fun to watch. And if you do have some lockout champions on the opposing side, useless in this case pretty much, because one of my damage dealers, who should be a support, is just ripping through your team using the A1s. So should be over here in just a moment. Once again, everybody's locked out. Harima in this case cleans up. But again, that was full auto. And once again, Freyja with that AoE A1 doing so much damage against these squishy champions here. Just incredibly useful to use in a meta where there's so many lockout champions. So much fun to use. Can't recommend it enough. Damage Freyja. And there you have it, everybody. Freyja Fateweaver. Incredibly versatile support, damage dealer, high resist cleanser, or speed booster. Everything you need in one champ. If you liked today's video, please consider liking and subscribing for more content like this in the future. Let me know down in the comments below if there's any other showcases or guides that you'd like to see on the channel. Thank you for watching today's video. Thank you for your time. Have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.